What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Jared Williams Show. Today we got a special guest on, Mr. David Reap. How you doing, man?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be here. Excited to, have a chat.
Yeah,
Find out
definitely.
a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you, just out of curiosity, I know you scheduled this podcast. By the way, I don't know a whole lot about David Reap. We literally just met for the first time a little bit ago.
Yep.
How did you end up getting here?
All right. Well, that's a long story. We'll get right into it, man.
Okay.
Born and raised in New York.
Uh-huh.
Didn't really come for money or anything like that. Had an opportunity right at 18. Had a family guy say to me, "Hey, you want to get into plumbing?"
Yep.
I said, "Let's do it, man." At the time I was working. I don't know. How old are you?
I just turned 40.
Okay, so you might
Yep.
know. You ever heard of service merchandise?
No,
No.
No.
It was like one of the original consumer stores. You go in there, you buy something with a ticket, right?
Okay.
You bring that ticket up to the front desk, and they bring it out in the back, bring it to your car or whatever. Full
Gotcha.
service, right? I was doing that, working in the back, just bringing out deliveries to people's cars.
Mm-hmm.
And, somebody asked me, "Hey, you want to get into plumbing?" And I said, "Yeah, man." And that was it. Next day I started plumbing. I remember he said, "Make sure you bring a tape measure and a level." I brought a 6-inch level, right?
Yep.
Torpedo level.
Yep.
And a 12-inch or 12-foot tape measure. One of those little ones that had the keychain on it.
Nice.
I bring that first day of work. He opens the window and he says, chucks out the window. He says, "You better come with a real tape measure tomorrow." So,
Did you clarify what that was?
what's that?
Like what classifies as a real tape measure? I wonder.
Oh, a Stanley 25-footer, really.
Okay, because I got a lot of crap for carrying a 16-footer, but
Okay.
but I carried the crap out of a 16-footer.
Yeah.
I just hated the weight of the 25 on my pocket.
Yeah. I mean, a 16 is efficient. It's good.
That's what I think.
You're not really measuring much more than 10 feet most of the time, right?
No, all out. I mean, I was on commercial projects. We measured more than that quite a bit, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Wasn't my favorite thing.
Yeah. So, started the plumbing as an apprentice. Really I got in with a good company right away.
Uh-huh.
Company did plumbing, air conditioning, electrical. And
Did you have to? Is there an apprenticeship in? I imagine
that's
New
the
York's
thing.
pretty strict. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's actually where I grew up. I'm from upstate New York, about an hour from the Bronx. There's really nothing. In order to get your license, a journeyman license, it's very specific to counties and then municipalities. So where I was working in Orange County, you don't need any type of license.
Interesting.
To do the work, I should say.
Yeah.
Obviously the owner needs the license, and that's specific to each municipality. So like a county license isn't going to get you anything. You would need a certified city license, and that'll get you to work in the borders of the city. And then municipalities like hamlets, towns, that kind of thing, it's a free-for-all. Doesn't matter.
Interesting.
So started working with him. Right off the bat was just, a helper. Cut pipe, drill holes, don't ask no questions, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And, I did that for about 6-8 months.
What kind of work were you doing?
Honestly, it was new construction. And when that was a little bit slow, I just, run duct and do whatever the AC guys needed.
Gotcha.
Being from New York, we also did wet heating. So boilers, steam, hydronic, all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So
Is that licensed at all?
no.
So that's how it is in Alaska. Then it seems backwards to me. In Alaska, you need a plumbing license, but not a heating license. And up there, it gets 40 below. You ruin somebody's heating, and their house freezes.
Yeah,
and all the
then
pipes
you got
burst.
major damage.
You got major damage. Yeah, it seems backwards. Anyway.
Yeah. So I did that for about 2 years, and then working for that same company, they gave me the ability to start roughing houses on my own.
Cool.
So, right in, I kind of learned codes good, got right into it, was doing townhomes, doing like 2 or 3 roughs a week, and really enjoyed it. Did that up until about 10 years, I worked for a few different companies, but about 10 years in, I got into another outfit, and I was like, all right, I really want to get a license here. So I got a Westchester County license for journeyman in New York. And, that was like kind of my first step to really, getting the credentials to be, a licensed plumber. I knew right from the beginning I wanted to, get a master license for sure.
Yeah. Was there a reason? Like, did you know?
It was more of like just a pride thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to be able to say I was a master plumber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Yeah.
And I really loved the work, man.
Yeah.
I really did. Even to this day, I like being in the field. If it doesn't help the business too much if I'm in the field, but I do like it. So, got my Westchester license in 2008, and then, I really felt like I was in a good position. Right, I was working for a good outfit. Then I got married. After I got married, had to make a quick U-turn and go from New York to Connecticut. My wife had a stepson. Well, my stepson, her son, and with the custody thing, we had to stay in Connecticut. So I was like, no problem, man. I got the Westchester license, right? Applied for a job in Connecticut. Met with a few people, and they're like, where's your Connecticut license? I said, I don't have that.
Doesn't
I got
that
a Westchester
seem just
license.
wild?
Yeah.
Like
You just drive an hour, and the rules are totally different.
I feel like I could go plumb anywhere in the United States, and maybe some things are different, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't think I need
feel the same way.
I don't think I need a license to cross state lines, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I feel the same way, man. It's like, I do think requiring a license is good, but there's once you get too much constriction on everything, it's not good for any trade.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So what were we talking about?
You had just gone to Connecticut.
Oh yeah, that's
and
right.
They were asking where your license
That's
is.
right.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I don't have one. Let me just apply for the license. I figured they'd, let me go ahead and take the test. Apply for the license, denial, right off the bat.
Yeah.
They wanted 4 years of schooling, which I didn't have. In New York, it was recommendations from employers.
Yeah.
You get an employer to say, yeah, you're good to take the test, and that's it. You take the test.
Yep.
So I appealed that decision to, deny my license, and met with the board. And it was the weirdest thing, man. It was like they all had attention on one guy. And it was what this guy said was how everybody was going to be in line and kind of say the same thing. He was like, no. And right down the line, no. So I was like, man, I'm in a pickle here, right? I had moved from, working in Westchester and parts of New Jersey to like central Connecticut. And I still had to I was making that commute every day until I get this license thing figured out. Took me about a year and a half to get that situated. I ended up having to take an apprenticeship.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Connecticut requirements were, 4 years of on-trade experience or in-trade experience, and then, the apprenticeship that was state approved.
Yeah.
Right? So they honored all my on-the-job hours, so it was just a matter of getting the schooling done.
Cool.
So I used a online curriculum that was approved by the state. That was through Penn Foster. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Yeah.
But they do a lot of, trade stuff. And, man, I knocked that apprenticeship out in, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks. I was just hitting it every day as hard as I could.
Yeah.
I couldn't take all the courses online. There were a few that I had to take in class, which I was doing at night. I think it was like 3 or 4 classes I had to do.
And in the meantime, are you working in New York, living in Connecticut?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 90 miles each way.
Nice.
A nightmare. It was a nightmare, man.
Probably good traffic too, huh?
It was the best traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking like a 3-hour commute home on a Friday. And
yeah.
If I leave 5-10 minute difference in the morning, that'll add 30-40 minutes to my commute.
Yeah.
It was like one of those things like you better leave 5:45 every day, or else your morning's going to be all screwed up.
Yeah.
So I finished that apprenticeship, resubmitted everything, and they finally allowed me to take my test.
Cool.
Which was like, big weight lifted off my shoulders at that point.
Yeah.
Took the test, passed that. So now I was a journeyman plumber in Connecticut. Beautiful. Worked for a few different outfits there. Some good, not so good, but you know, it was what I liked about Connecticut was, you know, the fact that everybody had to have a license.
Mm-hmm.
There was at least like a baseline level of skill or knowledge, I should say. You know what I mean?
So even the guys out in the field got to have a license.
Oh yeah.
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 Yep.
And the struggle I was having when I was doing the apprenticeship, I was still looking for jobs, you know, trying to find something. Maybe I could find somebody closer to Connecticut to, you know, pay me what I'm worth.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I did find a guy that was like, listen, you come here and work for a week, and if you say you can do what you say you can do, then, you know, I'll book you as an apprentice, but I'll pay you as a journeyman.
Cool.
And thankfully, I proved myself, and, you know, it was actually a great company working for them.
Cool.
Yeah, so I got the Connecticut license, and I stayed there probably another year, I would say. And then I was able to find something in central Connecticut where I lived.
Cool.
Something, you know, more local where I could be home at a reasonable time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So did that. I actually planned on, in Connecticut, you got to keep your journeyman license for 2 years before you can apply for your master's.
Gotcha.
So master's, certified, you know, they're all a little bit different with the names, but they all, you know, they kind of mean the same thing.
Yeah.
Master plumber is what I was looking for.
Yeah. In Alaska, we have a master plumber, but it's city specific. The comparable to the master plumber, they call it your mechanical administrator license.
Mechanical administrator?
Yep.
Okay.
Which is weird. But, you know, up there, the plumbing and heating are kind of mixed. So the mechanical administrator covers, I mean, it can cover pools, fire, safety systems, HVAC, plumbing. There's like 10 different licenses you can apply for. There's also an unlimited one as well where you can do all of them.
And that's all covered under the plumbing.
It's
like
covered
fire
under,
suppression?
they call it mechanical. So plumbing kind of falls under mechanical, electrical falls under mechanical, HVAC falls under mechanical, all the sprinklers and everything falls under mechanical.
Yeah.
And you go get your mechanical administrator license. That's what allows you to become a mechanical contractor. And when you're a mechanical contractor, that's when you're allowed to do whatever sort of plumbing or HVAC or electrical, whatever you're certified under your license.
Wow.
Yeah. And then to pull a permit in a city, then you have to go take that city-specific master plumber license. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot, man.
It is a lot. And you like the fastest you can do it is in 9 years.
Okay.
Like from the time you start your apprenticeship to the time you can get your first mechanical administrators is 9 years.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's good in a way. So you're going to know HVAC with that license. You're going to know some electrical.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
it's okay. It's what ends up happening is that there's not many people that have it. And then you don't have much competition between businesses.
Yeah.
And then depending on where you live, maybe it's enforced, maybe it's not. But even like you got to get all those licenses, and then you got to hire guys who have their plumbing license, and that's a 5-year apprenticeship program. Pretty much only way to do it is through the union, and there just isn't. You don't have many options to hire.
Yeah.
And so prices are high, which has its benefits, right?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Right?
It definitely does.
Prices are high. 20% margin on higher prices is more money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that part's nice, but it also makes like hiring guys really hard. Like compared to down here, it's easy.
Yeah, almost to a fault down here.
It's
a lot of wasted time because the labor pool is just so unskilled.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
I
hate to say it,
yeah,
but it really is.
So my neighbor, he owned a company down here, a plumbing and HVAC company down here. Ended up selling it. I think he scaled it. He was on here. Scaled it to $8 million in the first 3 years and then sold it. And he was showing me his group hire process that he does. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. It's pretty cool. Like for down here, because like I made one post. I was hiring a new technician for my for Dude Wash. I needed a wash tech. I made one post on a community page down here, and I got over 100 applicants. And I was like, holy moly, that's a lot of people to go through. And so I tried to make the process a little bit harder. They had to go through multiple steps, fill out multiple forms, send in resumes.
Sure.
And then I started selecting them for interviews. And the kind of like, it's funny how people will fill out a form real well. They'll write something real well. They probably chat GPT'd it. And then they'll come in for an interview and I'm like, there's no way this is the guy that filled out this form. Like something's wrong here.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So I spent a ton of time doing interviews to finally get down to like one good guy, basically, is what ended up happening.
It's a lot of time involved, man.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The group interview is where it's at. I'll tell you about it after the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Hiring is the hardest thing down here, man. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately. But just to go back to being, you said you were a union shop in Alaska, yeah?
Yeah, we were. Yeah. Yeah.
Unions are strong in Alaska?
Very strong.
Okay.
Yep. Just because of they have the Trans-Alaska pipeline. At the time it was built, it was the world's longest pipeline. It goes from Prudhoe Bay, which is all the way up north, down to Valdez, which is all the way down south. And I think it's 48-inch steel pipe that runs that entire length. Okay. And like you take Alaska and put it in the United States, you fit like 2 of them in here in the United States. So it's like running from top of the United States to bottom with a pipe, a 48-inch pipe. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, you got to make sure you got skilled guys doing that.
Yeah. And so that was actually all Texas union guys who came up there and built most of the pipeline.
Okay.
And then once the pipeline was built, then the union locals went and established their own unions there. And so the union where I was at in the middle of Alaska, in Fairbanks, Alaska, we were the ones that handled all of the pipeline maintenance and service work up there. And then, we have contractors and they need plumbers. Like Fairbanks starts to grow and we start getting buildings and military bases and things like that. And it's just stayed, for the most part, probably 95% union up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I remember listening to you in the past talking about having a service company that's a union shop.
Yeah.
Like, man, that's strange. That seems strange.
Yeah. And the reality is like the only thing the union did for us was handle our benefits. They were like a benefit company at the end of the day. Like we couldn't even hire all of our guys. Like not all of them came out of the union. We would go hire wherever we could.
Okay.
And like I couldn't go to the union hall and say, hey, I need a guy. And they give me a guy. I got to go poach guys from other shops, which is against the rules. But at the same time,
you're running a
you
business.
can't get me any guys. So I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never heard of, the service side of a union being as strong as, like, I guess, the New York union for plumbing is just, unfathomable how strong it is.
Yeah.
They got a lot of money behind it.
But not for service?
No. For service, no.
Yeah. And it's kind of the same way in Alaska. Like you have a bunch of really small, like one-man show service companies that aren't union, but that was it. Okay. There was no, like when I started Prospector, there was no 8-man shop. We're the only one in town. We're the biggest company in town at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess being a small shop in an area like that, I mean, it's hard to grow, yeah?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I got lucky in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if most people I've talked to that have been successful, they will tell you that there's good decisions, good business practices, but there's also always a little bit of luck. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Because like Fairbanks had grown to a point where it was big enough to handle a company the size of mine. Even it could honestly even get a little bit bigger, and nobody had done it yet. And so the market was prime for it. All these one-man shops didn't do a good job. And so everybody was like, there were customers out there dying to pay more for a better quality experience and a better quality product. And then it was like the tail end of COVID. Call volume was still pretty good. It's like search volume was pretty good. We could buy leads pretty cheap. And my other lucky thing was my brother owns a marketing company.
Yeah.
So, we got to like speed that whole process up. And he'd wanted to switch from, he was a local agency at the time, and now he only services plumbers, and he was wanting to make that switch. So he was like, "You're going to be my test case. So we're really going to hammer this." And
Stars
so we
aligned
did.
for you, huh?
What's that?
The stars aligned.
They really did, like in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. So when we hit the market and got going, it just started taking off. And then at that point, even, there was like, I hired my CSR. It was one of my buddy's wives, and she was working at home, and I didn't know, like, I was answering the phone. I was writing my jobs in a notebook, and she was the kind of person that I gave her the job. I didn't even know what I wanted her to do. Like, I was just telling my buddy the other day, he was in here, and I was drawing on my whiteboard, and I was like, he's an employee. And I was like, what makes the difference between a good employee and a great one? And he's like, what? And I said, okay. I drew a little dot and I labeled it good. And I drew a little dot way up here and I labeled it outcome. And I said, a good employee, I can give them these steps. And then they follow the steps and they get the outcome that I want. And then I drew another dot and I said, a great employee, I just give them the outcome and they create their own steps.
Yeah.
Well, his wife, when my friend's wife, Ayla, my first CSR, when I hired her, I didn't even know what the outcome was. She got in and she created the outcome. She just knew, okay, I got to make sure Jared's making money. And she came in and she created the outcome, created the steps to get there, and just owned that whole position. That was total luck. She'd never done that before.
Really?
Just hired a really good individual and she went with it. And and it made the business work in the beginning. So it was like me and her, and we were just killing it, destroying it. And I was able to put a ton of money away.
Yeah.
And then there were a few other key hires in there where I just hired a person that just came in and just destroyed. Just killed it. I didn't have to have my act together. And that's what allowed us to grow so fast. It was like a mixture of all those things. We just took off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, man. Having the right people in the right positions is really the key to the success, man. Otherwise, you're just grinding the tires.
Yeah, it took me forever to learn that. Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right butt in the right seat. Man, it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Massive.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess to go back to Connecticut, we took advantage. The housing market went crazy for a while. And my wife and I had gotten into this little thing like, hey, man, let's buy some property.
Yeah.
And let's do like a tiny house
Yeah.
and do all that, right?
Yeah.
Live off the grid a little bit, get away from all this craziness.
Yep.
So we had bought some property in Tennessee, and right when COVID started, man, I think, what was it, the winter of 2019, I want to say, into 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah. Housing prices went through the roof, and we're like, now's the time. Let's do it. So we sold our house in a day, no realtor. We put it on Nextdoor and had like 5-6 offers within an hour.
That's awesome.
And we're like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
3 weeks later, we moved to Tennessee. We stayed in Nashville, but our property is a little bit more towards Chattanooga. But we're like, all right, we're going to do it. We had profit from our house, moved down there, and I got with a builder there who was doing just high-end residential custom homes. And that was like my bread and butter.
Oh, yeah.
New construction, renovation, but stuff that you had to think, like, how are we gonna make this work here with these beams and all this stuff. So
yeah,
I loved it. He was like, come work for me, and you get a couple crews running underneath you, and then we'll put you in a management position.
Yeah,
boom, no problem. I worked for him for about 6 months, and then things started to slow down for whatever reason. Had a discussion. Hey, man, I've kept my end of the bargain here. Need a little bit more, right? He's like, yeah, it's not going to work right now, man. I'm sorry. And just randomly, I had heard on the radio that the local was hiring for apprentices. And I said, you know what? Let me see what this is all about. So I called the union hall and talked to a recruiter. And he's like, yeah, man, we're hiring anybody. Journeyman, apprentices, doesn't matter. We'll hire anybody right now. There's so much work. So, I gave that guy my 2 weeks notice, started with the union, and I was promised, like, with the amount of overtime we're going to have here, man, you're going to kill it.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to kill it.
Mm-hmm.
$100,000 easy. And got set up at a school that they were doing in Nashville. And it was like the opposite. It was so slow. It was 8-hour days every single day. I think in 6 months I was in the union there, I got like maybe 8 hours overtime.
Yeah.
It was like,
yeah.
the only benefit about it was that it was like 1.5 miles from my house.
Right.
So it was literally like, and we were working 6 to 2.
Oh yeah.
Those were amazing hours,
Yeah.
I still had my afternoons. My wife was pregnant at the time. So that, everything's got its silver lining. So that was good. But my experience with the union, man, it was not for me.
Yeah.
It was really not for me. Because I've always been one of those guys that like goes in and I push. I'm always trying to, do the most that I can.
Yep.
And when you're doing the most, especially in the union,
Yep.
they've got, all right, hold on.
The union,
Pump the brakes here.
Yeah, it creates like a hands against contractor kind of. There's like a beef there.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just here to do work, man. You give me the work, I'm going to do it. And when it's done, I'm going to come and ask, what else? What are we doing next?
Yeah.
And it was, unfortunately, I stepped on a lot of toes over there.
Yep. I can see that.
Yeah.
It's one thing like, because I worked out of the union for 16 years, and it was like, I was the guy that showed up early and put in the extra effort, and I always had a job because of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people didn't like it. And have you ever read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I read that book. I would think I was a 4th-year apprentice, and I'd been pretty like the whole union mantra of we get paid from this time to this time, you work from this time to this time, we get breaks, all this stuff. Nothing totally wrong with that, but I read that book and I was working alongside a non-union. He was kind of a carpenter, and the dude would show up early. He would put in extra effort, and he got paid more than everybody else. And we all thought he was a kiss ass. And I read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I'm like, you know what? That guy's the only guy doing it right.
Yeah.
He's the one making the most money. He's the one with the truck to drive home. He's the one with the gas card. He's the one that never gets laid off, never has to go home. He's the one making the boss happy.
Right.
And that completely changed the way that I thought about going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you get ahead, right?
Yeah. It doesn't fit real well in the union, though.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately not. So I was in the union there for about 6 months, and we kind of changed our mind on what we wanted to do with the property in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife was like, I've got a sister that just moved from Australia to Florida, and so they moved to Sarasota.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, if we're not happy here, let's just go and try it down there.
Yeah.
At least I'll have family. We were both in Tennessee with no family, nobody, just my wife, my daughter, and myself.
Yeah. And your wife's pregnant.
My wife was pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
So it's like almost a totally different experience, right?
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, let me see what I can do. Find another outfit to work for. And 3 weeks later, we moved. We got an apartment, sight unseen. Had to pay 2 months extra in advance just to get it because the renting market at that time was just
crazy.
I mean, we'd find a house. Okay, let's put in the application, and before you even could finish the application, it was like, house is done, house is taken.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just found an apartment, man. Paid 2 months ahead, and just did it, man. Packed up the U-Haul, came down here, and it was a good experience being down here because, I probably, my mindset changed after I worked for a company out of Tampa, and my whole mindset changed on how these plumbing companies are operating.
Yeah.
Coming from, so my first experience, like I told you, as an apprentice was like, A+ company, super well run, good technicians. The owner of the company really did care about the business he was building, right?
Yeah.
And then coming down here to Tampa, I was working for a commission company. First time doing that.
Yeah.
Man, it was like make or break. I had always worked an hourly wage. And then they're like, yeah, we pay you a commission down here. And I was like, man, well, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
that really opened my eyes to like what the market was missing down here, especially in the Tampa area. There were a ton of equity companies in the market already.
Yep.
Customers would call thinking they're reaching, a family-owned business. But no, it was like, company one that owns 2 other companies or 3 other companies in the same market.
Yeah.
I said, there's a real opportunity here. So as soon as I got in with that company, I was like, I got to get, there's opportunity. There's obviously service that's not being provided the way it should be for the price that these customers are paying. And I got my license, right away. Down here they make you take a business exam and then the trade portion, which was the first time I ever did isometrics.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, never. But I mean, they're cool. But I'd never seen isometric in my life until they asked me to, take the exam and you take some practice courses.
Yeah.
And you see isometric. Oh, I better learn that.
How'd you learn it?
I don't know. Well, it wasn't like really hard for me to learn it.
Yeah.
I guess maybe, when I was in high school, I took a lot of drafting classes.
Yeah. That
so
makes
angles
sense.
and all that kind of stuff was kind of easy for me to grasp.
Yep.
So, yeah, man, I just did a lot of practice exams to the point where I felt confident that I could pass it. And then, took the business, passed it, took the trade, passed it. And then when I applied for my license, they actually denied it again.
Nice.
Yeah, so I had to go meet with the board down here in Melbourne. And I waited in there for probably an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. And they called me up and they said to me, is all of this work history W-2? I said, yeah. They're like, all right, you're fine. Get out of here. I was like, all right, well, at least it's done. Now I got the license. Now I'm good to go.
Yeah.
So I was still working for that company in Tampa. And I was making really good money. There was like really not a reason to leave. But I wanted the license just to kind of have a backup.
Did you make good money just because it was commission based?
Yeah, it was the most money I ever made in my life.
Yeah.
Because it was commission based. I was a selling technician.
You can go out and just kill it.
Yeah. Yeah. I had no sales experience. I had always kind of looked down on sales until I figured it out. Like, no, sales is the key to everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You sell your wife when you want to, when you first meet her.
Yep.
Everything is sales.
Yep.
Supermarket, cars, clothes, the whole thing. It's all sales. So when I came to that company in Tampa, one of their big things was, hey, man, we're a family-owned company. We've been in business for 50 years. You got a solid place to work here, right? 3 months after I moved down here, they had a meeting with the sales guys. So there was 5 of us. And they said, hey, man, we just want to let you know there's some equity involved here now. And things are going to change a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, it is what it is. And then, you see some low-level people just disappear overnight. And then they start changing some protocols. And then our commission structure changed and our bonus structure changed.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is not looking too good. So went to another outfit out of Lakeland where I lived. And worked there for a couple months. I was like, you know what? I think now's the time. I think I need to start something. And man, it was the randomest thing. I had gotten on Angie's List, right? Where most people start on Angie's List, right? Just doing drain cleaning. I got one drain call. I don't know how this lady got my number, but she got my number. I went down there, house from like the 1940s, all cast iron in the ground.
Yep.
Kitchen line was stopped up. And I go there with a camera and a snake, and there ain't nothing left of this lady's cast iron.
Yep.
Had the conversation about, doing a redrain on the house, and she's like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
When can you do it?
Yeah.
I call my wife. I said, give me a minute. I call my wife. I said, this is the break right here. She goes, all right. I'm behind you. I support you. Let's do it.
Cool.
Let that lady know, hey, man, I'm going to be here Monday. And we're going to get your house redrained. And that was the start of the company, really.
Cool.
I had already established, the company name with the state and everything.
Yeah.
So that was like, the only thing I was really waiting on was, the switch, right? This is it. This is the move.
Yeah.
And that job was able to float me for like a month and a half.
Yeah.
With all my expenses.
Yeah.
And all I had to worry about was getting some new customers.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't even have a van. I was still working out of a Volkswagen Touareg.
Perfect. Nice.
But yeah, we did it. And just slowly, kind of built up the customer base. Angie's List was actually giving me most of the work because there was no dispatch fee, none of that stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm going to get whatever there is.
Yeah.
You need me now, I'll be there right now.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you make it happen.
Yeah.
Right. So,
how were you? I mean, so you'd worked for some companies that were probably charging pretty good.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
like the top of the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you probably had a pretty good idea what that was.
Mm-hmm.
So did you just start matching their prices?
Not from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably half the price of the big guys. I was charging like $200 an hour.
Yep.
I'm like, that's gonna at least let me eat for a while.
Oh yeah.
I still hadn't made that commitment internally. Like, yeah, man, you want to grow, you got to start charging
Yeah.
the big bucks, right?
What did you think of those big shops? Like,
I didn't really have an opinion on the money. Like I knew it was a lot, but
Yeah.
I know like, operating a business is a lot,
yeah.
especially in Florida. But it was like, for me, there's no reason why I can't charge what the big guys are charging,
Yeah.
right? But I have to be able to provide a better service,
Yeah.
better experience, than these big guys. Because, when the equity companies come in, it's really the customer and the employee are the means to a shareholder profit,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, man, that's just people don't know it, but that's just wrong, right? And there's nothing wrong with the equity companies doing that.
Yeah.
That's their business model.
I think they misunderstand how people-based the business is, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I mean, because when you're running a business, your product is the person. Like, your employees are your product.
of course.
And if you forget that and you don't realize, like, these people have feelings, they have emotions, they have needs, they have wants, they have desires, they have goals. And if you forget about all that and just turn them into a number, I think that's when it starts to go backwards.
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate. A lot of people call these big companies because they've got the marketing and the brand is there.
Yep.
They don't really know what's actually the motive behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's the main driver for why I started my company.
Gotcha.
Was like there's a huge space in this market for a good, honest, valuable service, right?
Yeah.
Where we actually do care.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we're leaving them in a good position when we're done. Yeah. So it's been really good. We've been in business for 2.5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
We went from just myself in the truck to 3 plumbers, and now we're doing air conditioning.
Cool.
So
you started like mid 2022?
late 2022.
Yeah.
I
Cool.
I formed the business September 6th, 2022, and made the jump full time March of 2023.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I basically been 2 years going
Yeah.
at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been amazing, man.
That's
It
cool.
hasn't been easy. Don't get me wrong, but
Well, tell me, so, I mean, you got started, but then what was it like once you got started from, you get that first job and now what?
yeah. We were just a big game changer for me was getting on LSA,
Mm-hmm.
local services. I didn't know anything about marketing then.
Mhm.
My whole brand was built on Fiverr. Cost
Yep.
me $30.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't know if I got lucky or what it was, but I get complimented on our brand all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Our trucks, the wraps and all that. And I didn't have to go a super expensive route to get that done. But getting on Google, getting a pay-per-click campaign, that really started getting things moving.
Yeah.
I mean, when we got on local services, it was like every day, like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
calls. And that was still during, the end of COVID. So
Yeah.
volume was still there. Cost per lead was, still less
Pretty
than it is
decent.
today.
Yeah.
So it was,
Do you know what you were paying on pay-per-click?
I only had one campaign that Google set up for me.
Mm-hmm.
And my budget was really only like $800 a month,
Mm-hmm.
but it was for one person. That was
Yeah.
working for me. I
Yeah.
didn't need a ton of calls,
Yeah.
but when I got on the local services, that's really when the volume picked up to the point where I could start hiring people.
Gotcha.
And then I got with an actual marketing company that, redid my website, took control, did my Google local services. They did social media posting and all that.
Yeah.
And then obviously the SEO from there started getting established.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good, man. Google's been great. I mean, it sucks we got to give them so much money,
It does.
but yeah, they can help your business in a good way,
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. So New York to Connecticut to Tennessee to Florida.
yeah,
And are you going to stay in Florida?
yeah.
You like it?
No, we do like it here. Everybody talks about the weather, right? It's so hot, so hot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not comparable to Alaska, but you still get the same heat in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Hot and humid.
Yep.
I mean, our first week in Tennessee, it literally rained every day at 100% humidity. It was like 80 degrees. It was
Yeah.
even at 80 degrees with 100% humidity is a little bit unbearable.
Yeah.
But then after that, springtime came, allergy season came, and then the heat came. It was no different than it is down here.
Yeah.
Like the Tennessee heat and the Florida heat, they're almost identical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even in New York, July, August, even the early parts of September,
Mm-hmm.
it gets hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hot. At least down here, everybody's got AC.
True.
It's much easier to cool off than it is to heat up in the wintertime, that's for sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so what were you talking about there again?
Well, so I mean, that pretty much answered my question. So, and now you have how many plumbers?
Right now we have 3 plumbers.
3 plumbers.
Yeah.
And
That's been
then
a hard task, man.
just finding the plumbers. How come? Like what?
Well, you always hear that the good guys are always taken, right?
Mhm.
And it's true,
Yeah.
you know?
Hands down.
I've talked to guys from other companies trying to get them over. And, at the time being a small company with just 1 or 2 employees,
Yeah.
for a lot of guys, that's a big risk.
Yeah. They want security.
Of course.
Yeah.
And, those big companies that are out there,
Yep.
even though they might not have work for them all the time, for some reason, it still gives them security,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, my first year, I must have went through like 8 or 10 guys.
Oh, really?
Just, yeah.
Just coming in, they don't
Part
know
of
what
it's,
they're doing or
what's
what?
that?
Like they're bad character, bad plumbers. Like what are you finding the most of?
Well, like we talked earlier, the labor pool down here is just, it's not really strong.
Yeah.
So, you want to run your business to be profitable. You got to find somebody to go in the truck and operate it, right?
Right.
So you bring guys in and you ride with them for a couple days. You test them out. You see how they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as they're not going to, like a bull in a china shop, you kind of just monitor them for a bit and, let them do their thing. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't,
Yeah.
and, never operating a business before. I certainly don't have a strong sense of hiring people.
Yep. It's
So
definitely
it's
a
a
skill.
learning curve there.
Yeah.
I'm getting better at it.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some major, key questions that I ask, like, what would you do if this situation happened? How would you handle it?
Mm-hmm.
Making sure they're, going to do it the same way I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, man, I've had some good guys, and we do pay commission too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another, I guess, guys that have worked commission, now that's all they ever want is commission.
Yeah.
But, you can have guys that have never worked commission but are actually good plumbers, but the whole commission thing just scares the crap out of them.
Yep.
Yeah,
it does.
So, I've had some guys come on that just are good plumbers, but just can't get used to the commission thing. It's just too scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about your commission structure. What is it?
So we pay a percentage, if they run the call from beginning to end. If they pass the call off, they'll get a certain percentage. And if they do the work that somebody else sells, they get a different percentage for that.
Do you mind sharing what the percentages are?
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity.
And this is all over the Florida market.
Yeah.
The only one that pays much higher is Roto-Rooter. But most of them are going to pay you 20% of your ticket. If you take that call and run it.
Yep.
If you have a call back, there's nothing. They'll pay on the low end, if you sell something and somebody else does it, they'll give you like 8 to 10%.
Yeah.
Yep. And then in the mid teens is kind of where you're looking if you do the work that somebody else sells.
Yep.
So,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The good thing about it is it helps you keep your margin at the end of the day. You're never going to overpay if somebody's too slow or something.
Yep.
But one of the big things we're actually struggling with is efficiency. And that'll affect your margin more than being priced right, in my opinion.
It'll make or break you for sure.
Yeah, billable efficiency. Yeah.
Most people, and I did this, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know to track billable efficiency. And so we would overcharge to make up for it, is basically what it was.
Yeah.
And when we figured out we could, for us, becoming more efficient wasn't necessarily my guys becoming faster in the field. It was, we literally just had to charge less, and then we sold more time. That was it.
Okay.
So like for us, we would go to a home and the homeowner could only afford to do one thing. And when we lowered our rates a little bit, they started buying 3 things. And so every single job we would sell more time. And so we had less wasted time between jobs, less wasted time going to customers' houses and not selling something. Conversion rates went up, average tickets went up, efficiency went up. And we made, I think last year was an extra $1 million. Same guys, just different pricing. That's it. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. How long did it take you to track that? Like, to see some changes? Because I've we got on Service Titan in December, so we haven't been with it very long. But this is where the data stuff is coming into play. Like this stuff is really eye opening.
Yeah, super eye opening.
Yeah.
So we would track. We tracked billable efficiency for a long time, and it was always like a lot of our guys were 60, 70, some guys 50%, which is only tracking time on the job. Yeah. And so we're leaving half of our money on the table most of the time. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, we got to fix this. It took me like 6 months to figure out how to fix it, like to figure out what to do. I had no idea. But it was really eye-opening because probably 2 years prior, we had just got to 7 technicians out in the field. I hired a general manager. And then I think I achieved that by October. November, we did pretty good. December, we had our best month ever. And then January, February, March, April, May, we lost money, like anywhere from 20 to 30 grand, just gone. And I was watching my bank account dip. I only had 200 grand and I was watching it just go boom, boom. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And the only thing I knew to do, I remember I walked out of my shop one morning and everybody's out there getting ready. They just got done with a meeting or something and looking at all these guys and thinking, these guys got kids, they got wives, they got mortgages, they got bills, they got car payments. I got to do something or we're going to go out of business.
Yeah. And
the only thing I knew to do was raise prices. So we went from like $410 an hour to $610 an hour. And it was like, I thought it's either not going to work or it's going to work. But either way, I got to try something. It was the only thing I knew to do. Bam, next month we make $100K. And we pretty much stayed making $100K for a long, long time.
With 7 guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
$100K a month. Yeah, profit at the end of the month.
I gotcha.
It was like the first time I really made a good, strong profit.
Gotcha. That's not revenue.
No.
Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
Profit. Yeah.
I gotcha.
So we were doing like, we probably do, I'd have to go look, but it's probably anywhere from like 400 to 500K profit, or sorry, revenue somewhere in there, you know, and we're hitting 100K plus profit.
Yeah.
And we're probably hovering around anywhere from 18 to 22% net margin. And so I'm happy.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Right. But then I start, you know, and we go a year and we make pretty good money, and I start tracking billable efficiency and it's low. And it's like, man, if we could get this billable efficiency number up, we could make a lot more money, like ridiculous amounts of money. And I would go pull and say, okay, if I was 70% efficient last year, how much more time would I have sold? And I would run the numbers, and it was like wild how much more money I could have brought in.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, and I also was like, okay, if I was 70, 80, 90% efficient, I could actually start offering services cheaper to my customers, more similar to my prices back when I raised rates from $410 to $600 an hour. And I started looking at how often we would go to a job and provide multiple estimates and sell the lowest one, or how often we would go to a job for like something simple like a P-trap and not convert it. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty often. And so we devised a way to make the cheapest items cheaper and more sellable. And even if we get to a bunch of times sold, those are cheaper as well. So we start converting these ones that we never had a chance to convert on both ends. And man, and then we introduced a commission structure as well. We didn't go straight commission because we couldn't, because of union rules for the most part. But when we implemented commission, and then we call it like, it's margin-based pricing instead of taking all my expenses and running them into an hourly rate and saying, okay, this is what we charge to cover expenses. We basically just said, okay, I know when I hit 55% gross margin on my P&L, I'm at 22% net.
Right.
So whatever I sell, I'm just going to shoot for 55% net margin. The only thing was, like, service work, we were really inefficient. Install work, we were really efficient. And then even like water heaters, big pumps, pressure tanks, anything like that, you know, service work, we might sell 55% of our time. When you do a water heater, if we bump those hours up to 5 hours, if I sell 5 hours in a day, I'm already 60% efficient. And so if after 5 hours, you know, my guys are getting them done in 4, but we put them at 5 in the price book, that still gives them 4 hours to go run one more call and sell another hour. And all of a sudden I'm 70, 75% efficient, which means I can technically offer that stuff cheaper.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is like things like P-traps, where we used to be, you know, I think the biggest difference here was when you take all your expenses and try to cover it with just labor, your labor rates go up, right? When you price based on margin, the more material you sell, the more expensive the item gets, but the labor stays the same. And so when you're trying to cover all your expenses in your labor, you're really jacking your labor rates up on things that probably don't need to be that expensive.
Right.
Things like P-traps.
Yeah.
Very little material. And so you're outrageously charging this really high hourly rate on your labor to make up for the lack of markup on material.
Yeah.
We kind of flipped that on its head, and we those two changes, just coming up with 3 different price points. So we might be $430 for service work, $280 for install, and like $295 for anything 5 hours and over. What would happen is my guys would go to a job and they would start bundling items. And I heard this on Tommy Millo's podcast. He said, one thing I wish I did sooner was bundle items together. And it got me thinking. I was like, well, if we start bundling items together, we can become more efficient when we install them, and we can actually offer them cheaper to the customer and still hit margin and increase conversion rates, which increases efficiency even more. And because we're selling more items, our average ticket should go up.
Of course.
And so that's what we started training our guys to do. We'd say, okay, when you go to a house, if there's like 4 1-hour things that need fixed, go put it in a custom, like we have custom tasks in our price book.
Sure.
Go put it in a 5 or 6 hour custom task. It'll drop the price for the customer and we're still going to hit our margin. And they were so confused. Like in the beginning, they were like, how? I'm like, just trust me. And sure enough, we let it roll. We probably noticed it, it probably took like 3 months before we were like, oh, this was a really good decision.
Yeah.
It took the guys a little bit to catch on, took a little bit for them to realize that they actually make more money when they bundle items together and sell more to the customer. And like my guys always wanted to give the customer a discount, always.
Yeah.
And we would always say no discounts.
Right.
Like they always wanted to do 2 things. They wanted to make more money and they wanted to give the customer a discount. And I was like, that doesn't work, guys. You can't discount and make more money. We got to figure out a way that you can do that. And so this allowed them to go in and have a way to give the customer a discount that was actually legitimate, where we would make enough money and they get to make more money at the same time. So everybody's interests were just kind of aligned.
Yeah. How did you, so you said you went to 610?
Yep.
And then you rolled it back again.
Yep.
Yeah. What did you roll it to at that time?
It was, our service was 430. I believe our install was 280 and our anything 5 hours and over was like 300-ish, somewhere in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the material markups changed too, because materials for service work, we were super inefficient. Mm-hmm. Like if I got, if I'm saying, hey, we're going to cut out and replace 10 feet of pipe, well, it could be copper, it could be PEX, it could be whatever. And they're going to go buy materials and not use some and blah, blah, blah. I tracked our service material efficiency. It was right around 50, 60%, somewhere in there. So our material markup went from 100% to 300%. So labor dropped quite a bit, but material went up. So when we sold lots of material, we still hit the desired margin that we needed to hit on our P&L. For install work, we were really efficient with our materials. And so that stayed around 150% markup. And then also for, anything with larger equipment that we bumped up into the 5 hour mark, when you go put in a water heater, the cost of the water heater is the majority of the materials. You're really efficient with selling that. Like you know what a water heater is going to cost, right? Yeah. And so, and you have a few other parts that maybe you're a little bit efficient on, but for the most part, the larger ticket material, like equipment items, you can be really efficient on materials. And so those were only like 160, 170% markup as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's funny hearing you say that, because our biggest struggle with our efficiency is not the service side.
Yeah.
It's the install side.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, we've got some, guys that, say they can do a repipe and they can do it, but it just takes forever.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the struggles with,
but so get this, you could just put more time on that job and all of a sudden you become more efficient. Right. So so for us, like, and it's a weird concept because at the end of the day, hourly rate doesn't really mean jack diddly. Like it's just a metric that we're using in our business to guide us in the right direction, right? Because if you were $600 an hour and had an hour on your toilet task, and I'm $300 an hour and have 2 hours on my toilet task, I'll have better efficiency. You'll have garbage efficiency, but our toilets cost the same.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. So really all you needed to do to gain efficiency was double your task time. But if you doubled your task time at $600 an hour, now you're at $1,200, you're double the toilet cost and you'll never sell the toilet, which then is going to hurt your global efficiency, right?
Right.
So like for you, what hurts? Is it job time efficiency or global efficiency?
I think it's job time efficiency.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, and now you have the struggle, like, do guys even want to sell a repipe at that point?
Yeah.
Right. Because they see if they are going to make enough money on it for it to even be worth it for them.
Right.
Otherwise,
because it's a lot of work.
Of course.
Yeah.
A repipe's a lot of work down here. Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? So just curiosity, like you go do a repipe and Like, what's the time frame on those typically? Like just typical repipe,
Yeah.
if there is one.
A good guy with a helper should get a 2-bath repipe done, with a water heater and shower valves, 3 days max.
3 days. Max. Okay.
Really good. You can get it done in 2.5. A mobile home, manufactured home is usually day and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you've got guys doing a 2-bath repipe, and it's taking them the whole week,
yeah,
that's just killing your efficiency, right? And then you're missing out on 2 days worth of calls.
Yeah.
And
then, is your install price cheaper than your service price, like labor rate?
I would say they're pretty in line.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens a lot of times with installs is that we have to end up giving a discount because people will get other prices.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a guy out there that knows how to sell and can close a deal.
Yeah.
They're going to shop around and then they're going to call you. And most of the time we do get the second call like, hey, I really liked you guys. You were more thorough. You noticed this that the other company didn't get, but they said they're going to do it for, $9,000 and you guys are 10.5 or something,
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, we want to earn your business. We want to, get you as a customer for life. But you've always got that discount.
Yeah.
That discount kills you.
Yeah. I bet. I bet you could offer those cheaper and still hit margin. I almost guarantee it. Like, I bet if you ran the numbers, you could probably bid those with more time and offer them either at the same price or cheaper, and I bet you would still hit your margin.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever job costed one of those to see what margin you actually hit on the job?
The only thing I've actually done, because I'm super picky about it, is the materials.
Yeah.
Like I'll count every 90, every collar, especially when I would go out and do them. I'm like, all right, this is really where I can see how much is the material actually going to cost me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so guys don't want to do them because you're having to sell them for $8,000. It's taking them 5 days, and they're only getting 20% commission on them.
Yeah.
So they're getting, what is that, $1,600?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're working the whole week for $1,600
when they could bad.
when they could go and do a bunch of service calls and make more money.
Yeah.
Interesting. And are all your techs selling techs?
Well, we have 3, and they really, we have one who's young, but he's super ambitious. I wouldn't put him on a repipe yet, but the other 2 can. Yeah, for sure.
So if they sell it, they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the same time, repipes are almost like another animal. They're not really, most service guys wouldn't really want to touch them.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful I've got 2 guys that can actually, suck it up and do it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the way the market is down here, you've got guys that will only sell.
Yeah.
Guys that will sell and do a certain amount of it.
Yep.
Like water heaters and that kind of thing.
You need an install guy.
But down here you got a lot of install guys.
Yeah.
It's all they want to do.
Yeah.
It's almost like a different mindset.
Yeah, it is. It's like the guys who don't want to sell.
Yeah.
And they're okay making less money because of it.
Yeah. They're like, just put me in the house. I'll replace all the pipes, but I don't want to talk to anybody.
Don't do the hardest job.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's actually kind of where we've been struggling to grow even more, is because, we're having a hard time finding good people in the market.
And then that creates a scheduling nightmare, I imagine, because your sales tech now just sold a week's worth of work.
Yeah.
If you're scheduled out at all,
yeah,
you're moving
and if
a
we
bunch
already
of people.
have things scheduled, we're obviously going to push them so we can get a repipe.
Yep. And then you're probably getting a bunch of cancellations as well, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yep.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, you need an install guy.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
You need the guy who's happy going in there. And
yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
if anybody wants to
$1,600
relocate to Florida, let's have a discussion for sure.
So, normally you'd pay $1,600 commission on that. So if you do the math, that's a $40 an hour employee.
Yeah.
I bet you could put out a job ad for 35 and get somebody to be an installer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that, but I mean, 35 an hour is almost above average down here.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Most people would love 35 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if they didn't have to sell.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still put them on
make a note on
commission,
that one.
but
What's that?
you can still put them on commission.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'll pay him the hourly and let him see what the commission would be.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll make a little bit more on the commission. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle. You know, we're at that point with the company, like it's really all the pieces need to align to be able to kind of skyrocket. You know, you got to have the right guys. You got to have efficient guys.
Yeah.
You know? And that's our biggest struggle right now.
So your billable efficiency is low. Is it if your billable efficiency is low, and your global efficiency, by global efficiency, I mean like a guy works 2,000 hours in a year and he sells 1,000, that'd be 50% of his time was sold.
Sure.
And then billable efficiency would be out of the 1,000 hours he sold, how many hours did he actually work on the job? So if he actually worked 2,000 hours on the job, then his billable efficiency is 50%.
Right.
If he worked 1,000, it's 100%. And so if your billable efficiency is low, it's usually a measurement of task times in your price book or, bid times on custom estimated jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not enough time. So you'd have to add time to those. Which if you're
at the same time, you can't be going into someone's house and blowing them out of the water with a price because your guys are super inefficient. You got to charge way more than you really should.
Well, so this is where when we started running the numbers, if we worked on job time efficiency and actually added the right amount of time to all the stuff, we were able to get cheaper. And it seems counterintuitive.
It really does,
right?
yeah.
It does, but what ends up happening is average tickets go up because you start selling more items in the home. You start selling more bigger tickets.
Right.
It was a really hard phenomenon for me to wrap my head around. And I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. It just felt like the right thing to do. And so we did it. And I can tell you for us, it worked out good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where'd you get the thought to do that?
I was listening to Billy Stevens' podcast, and he just said one time, he said, because he loves Sarah, right? And his whole thing with Sarah is job time efficiency. It tracks job time efficiency. You need AI. I tried Sarah. It wasn't that good. But I learned a lot from Billy Stevens' podcast. I mean, lots of good freebies in there.
He's got Billy Goat, right? Or something like that?
Yeah, Billy Go. And he said something like, we need our guys to be at 80% billable efficiency. Yeah. And I was like, billable efficiency? Or he says job time efficiency. I'm like, what in the heck is that? I never even looked at it. And so
he's big on the time, charging for the time.
It's all about the time.
Yeah.
Because even with my power washing business, we're undercutting some of the one guy shops here because we're just more like, if you look at hourly rate, right? We're actually cheaper. You look at job times that we put on our estimates, ours are slightly higher, but we're actually we don't have to charge as much as they do because we're so dang efficient where they aren't. And so we'll go to a house and instead of just selling a house wash, we'll sell a house, a driveway, and a roof wash. And where they sold 2 hours at $300 an hour, we sold 6 hours at $150 an hour. Our efficiency goes through the roof, but the price for the customer is down.
Yeah. And it's like almost a no-brainer. They're going to get all this extra stuff, and what they're seeing on the invoice, it's really not that much more.
Yeah. For the customer, it's a no-brainer for sure.
Right.
And if you can, I think what made it work so well for our plumbing business is that service work, if we could show them, hey, if I just do this one thing, you've got these 4 things wrong. If I were to do them one at a time, come back for 4 different trips, it's going to cost this much to get all this done. Mm-hmm. What I did is I took all these and I lumped them into getting them all done today. What my boss allows us to do is, because we're here longer, we gain efficiency and we pass those savings on to you, the customer, that allows us to get all this done today for this price.
Yeah.
And it's always quite a bit cheaper. So what do you think? You want to get all of it done today for less money? I mean, it's like, of course I do. If I have the money, of course I do.
Yeah.
And then if they don't, then you say, I totally understand it. It's an investment. I really want to be able to get you the best price possible. Would you be open to any sort of financing? We've got 0% interest for a year financing. You can make payments for 12 months on this and we can get it done.
Yeah. Financing has been key.
Yeah.
For us too.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. Being able to, we use Green Sky. So we got a 12-month, no interest, no payments.
Yeah.
Like you got a year to think about it.
Yeah.
And make. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it works great. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a game changer being able to get people financed.
Yeah.
But we've only been working for Service Titan, like I said, since December. So we're only 4 months in.
Yeah.
It's been great for sure. Service Titan.
100%. I would really focus on that billable efficiency number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm gonna be doing that as soon as I get home.
Yeah.
You know?
It was major game changer for us. Like, I think if, I sold the company, we made the change, ran the company for like 6 months, and then I sold the company. And I put the company up for sale before we made the change. And I felt like an idiot for selling it at the time that I sold it.
Yeah.
And the guy coming in, he was super worried. And his first day, I said, dude, I'm going to tell you, you just bought literally, like, you have all the past numbers. You're going to blow those numbers out of the water this next 6 months.
Yeah.
And
you
he
didn't
did.
even buy the same company.
No, he did not.
Yeah.
It was a completely different company at that point. Way better than what he paid for.
Yeah.
But it was all that focusing on that job time efficiency is what did it.
Yeah, so I definitely got to work on it. Did you sell to an equity or to a private guy?
To a private guy.
Okay.
Yeah. Guy named Zach.
Zach.
Yep.
Okay.
Out of Seattle.
What was the market in Alaska? Like, what was the population of Fairbanks?
60,000.
That's it.
33,000 homes. Yep.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, our market's just in Lakeland. We serve outside of Lakeland, but just Lakeland alone is 500,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You could have a massive business. Yeah.
Massive. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you figure, so you can take the population and then you can Google how many average people per household. And so if you have 1 million people and there's 2 people per household, that means you have 500,000 households. So now you know how many houses are there.
Yeah.
You can assume you can service like 60% of those call a plumber at some point in time. So there's 300,000, right? And then you can also assume that you can get about 20% market penetration.
Yeah.
So
that's an aggressive number, but yeah.
So, well, it's probably pretty accurate. So there's 300,000 people, there's 60,000 people that you can have as your customer.
Yeah.
Now take your how average service time between services per customer. If they call you every other year, it cuts that number in half. 300,000 people a year you can serve. Multiply that by your average ticket.
Mm-hmm.
That'll give you your max market size.
Okay.
It's bigger than most people think. Like,
yeah.
I run the numbers for Alaska. My market in Alaska, I was amazed that we pulled 5 million out. And then I sold it, and this year they pulled 6.2 million out. I learned how to do market size calculations. You can pull 9 million out of 33,000 homes. That's doing plumbing and heating, but it's unreal what you can pull out of a market.
Yeah. I guess the key is, getting them to know you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Before they need you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Helps to have a brother who does marketing, huh?
It does. But even then, I've had to become a marketer. Mm-hmm. Like my whole job became, I think about marketing, back-end strategy planning, and then you almost become a recruiter at the same time. Like those become your job duties as the business owner.
Yeah. Recruiting is super important, man. You always got to have people in the pipe ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your commission structure that you have, did you learn that at the companies that you worked at?
I did learn it. Yeah. I did work for a guy in Connecticut though that was very open about his business. And when I got hired on there, I was very tenured, and I told him I want $50 an hour. And he was the only guy that I ever said that to that he didn't even balk. He's like, yeah, no problem. He's like, the only thing you got to do is make me $400,000 in the year.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how'd you come up with that number? He said, because your wages should be about between 18 and 22% of your revenue.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, okay. Man, I've been getting paid enough for the last few years, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that always stuck with me when he said that. And then, coming down here and learning about, your P&L and all that stuff, 20% is a good number.
Yeah.
You don't want to be spending too much more than that. I mean, you're spending more than 30% on wages.
Yeah.
You got an issue.
That was me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our wages were like 38% sometimes.
Yeah.
Before I put in controls on it.
Yeah. It's, as being a plumber, you don't know any of this stuff going in.
No.
Right? You're just winging it. And, thankfully there's so much content out there for us now that it's easy to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
You just gotta dedicate the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then what's the plan with your company? Do you got any big goals with it?
Yeah. We just got into air conditioning. So we have a qualifier for our business. Unfortunately, the last, 3-4 weeks in Florida has been unseasonably cool.
Yep.
So it hasn't been busy, but we're going to be relying on LSA a lot for that as soon as this weather breaks. And then, we want to build a team with about 5 plumbers, solid, and then 5 AC guys.
Cool.
That's the goal. It's doable for sure.
And then just
especially in our market.
Keep running the business, or do you have plans on selling? Or
yeah, we all open a business with no intent to sell, right?
Right. But, I know.
I don't really think I'll be selling anytime soon. I do like, running a company.
Yeah.
It's different than doing plumbing. I like being able to teach our guys kind of like, real good customer service. You ever read Unreasonable Hospitality? No? Let me tell you something. You
Sounds
read that
good.
book? Yeah, it's Will Guidara. He ran the #1 Michelin star restaurant in the world out of New York City. And his whole thing was customer service.
Yeah.
How can we blow these people away? And that's big in our company. Where can we find little touch points in the home that we can just use to our advantage and make them feel like they're really getting a special experience with us? You know
like
what I mean?
What?
If you see, a balloon in the house, like, well, what's that balloon about? Somebody just graduated or something, and we'll send them something in the mail, whether it's flowers or whatever the case may be, is just, hey,
I like that.
we saw that.
Yeah.
We need to do it more often for sure, but we're always on it.
Yeah.
We're trying to, myself included. When I was plumbing, I was a plumber. I wasn't out here being a customer service guy and doing all this.
Yeah.
So it's like a slow process getting the guys to see the stuff.
Yeah.
Being on board with selling things. You
Yeah.
know? 'Cause at the end of the day, we're selling our time and we're selling the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if
Super
you don't,
important.
if you like plumbing and you don't sell it, you won't get to do any plumbing, unfortunately.
Yeah. 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 It's all nice and dandy until you're sitting in front of a customer's house and they're telling you, no, I don't want you to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
tough. So, and doing commission, you don't sell it, you don't eat.
Yeah.
So it's cutthroat in that aspect of it. But if you learn it, it can pay you well.
Yeah.
For sure.
So when you were working and you were making way more money than you'd ever made before, do you know what your close rate was?
High 80s.
High 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I had there was always that nervousness of like, well, if I don't sell this one, what happens if I don't have anything else for the week?
Yeah.
So I was selling everything. It didn't matter. My average ticket was like $1,600.
Yeah.
I'm selling everything, whether it's $200 or, a few thousand, I'm selling everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you think, what do you think you did different to get your close rate up that high?
Learn sales.
Yeah. How'd you learn sales?
Very simple. How did I learn sales?
Yeah.
I bought a course from Jeremy Miner.
Did you?
NEPQ.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah. Was it good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once you learn sales, you kind of learn when that stuff is being used on you.
It's everywhere.
I know it's everywhere.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I've always been if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have told you sales training is useless. And I've completely changed my mind now, because what I saw was that I would get these people with, we had okay close rates at Prospector between all the guys. They were okay, maybe 60, 65 on average. Once we changed our pricing around and helped them sell just with how we structured the business, our close rates went up, I think, to like 68% across the board between the whole company. Some guys higher, some guys lower. And honestly, if they had sales training, I'll take that back. We had to get sales training to get to that point even. The pricing structure didn't do it all in and of itself. But what I would see is I'd see these companies come in and they didn't know how to answer their phone. They didn't know how to book jobs. They didn't know how to go to a home and build estimates. And then they're buying all their guys' sales training, or they weren't even priced right? And sales training is the thing that's going to fix it. And they're over there just pushing their guys super, super, super hard. Their rates are super, super, super cheap. And they're like, my guys are going to all these jobs and their average ticket's only $300. They need sales training.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw in the industry. And so I hated sales training for the longest time, until I started to understand, like, okay, well, once we're running a good business, my guys got to sell stuff. And if we don't sell anything, they don't make any money. I don't make any money. We don't have a business. And for us, it became like we invested in Synergy Learning Systems. Have you heard of Doug Wyatt?
No.
He's a cool guy. I didn't like him at first. I hope he watches this. He's got a suit jacket. Looks super fancy. It was the jacket. I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
But he's actually, I've gotten to know him pretty well.
Doug Wyatt?
Yep.
Okay.
Real nice guy. He had a very successful company, loves the industry. His sales training is great. We've taken his scripts. I mean, we used him at Prospector, and then I've taken his scripts as well and used them here at Dude Wash.
Wow.
And it's basically going from, like, his whole thing is that every objection that we get, first he's like, hey, you just need to ask for the order and then figure out ways to ask again. Because if we just keep asking, the likelihood of them saying yes goes way up.
Yeah.
And so every objection that we get, it's basically a price objection. Because if it was free, we wouldn't get any of those objections. I need to talk to my husband. Well, if it was free, you wouldn't have to talk to your husband, right?
Yeah.
If it was free, you wouldn't say, I need to think about it. Unless you had a question about what the service we were providing, but it's still not a price objection. It's about the service, right?
Right.
So once we learned how to all of those are price objections, how do we get that back to it's about the price? And then how do we handle the price objection? Man, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
So tell me more about
the NEPQ is, especially we look at the price objection like that's just what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's really not a price objection.
They're
either not sold on you or the service you're providing, or in a very small, maybe 5% of the time, it really is about price. And then you talk about it. But the whole NEPQ is
it makes sense.
Yeah. How do we, there's 7 steps to it. So, how do we walk them through this hallway, hitting all these doors and get to the end? And really the whole process, you're supposed to be able to negate any type of price objection you're going to get.
Right.
So that
before you get to it.
Of course,
yes.
Before you get to it.
Yes, yeah. I agree.
I mean, we wouldn't just go in there and say, hey, it's $850.
No.
Yes or no, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they don't know what you're going to do for that price.
Right.
They don't know the warranty. They don't even know you, so yeah. And the whole thing with NEPQ is it's always trying to diffuse, always. Like how can we connect, make this person like us, feel confident in us?
Yep.
Yeah. I like it. It's worked well for me. I haven't had any other types of training that one just, I don't know, seemed to work well.
It makes sense. I mean, it's value, like people's choices are value driven.
Yeah.
They're typically not price driven. They're usually going to they're either going to shop by best value, or, I mean, we see people, even if they don't have any money, they go spend money they don't have on things they want. And it's because the value versus how the dollar amount they're giving away, the value outweighs the dollar amount.
Yeah.
If we go to their home and we just say, here's the dollar amount, they don't have any value to compare to the dollar amount.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the proposition has to be, they got to feel like for what they're getting, they need to be confident that you can do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the worst thing you can be while you're sitting in front of somebody trying to sell them something is unsure of yourself.
Right.
And unsure of the product you're selling.
Yeah.
Right. Never going to sell anything that way. Yeah. And then you've obviously, you know, once you do sell it, you gotta blow it out of the water.
Yep.
You gotta, you know, make it the best experience they've had.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've also got, we're part of Blue Collar Success Group. So they teach some selling stuff on there. But really, the NEPQ is really what we push on the guys, because it's really about connecting.
Yeah.
And what's different about them is they'll almost teach you, like, don't have any connection to this, you know, don't even really come forth that you can even help them. It's like more of like, let's have a conversation and see what's going on, see where you want the end result to be, and then we'll see if we can get there. You know, very, you know, trying to just kill any resistance throughout the interaction.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's different, but it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not really for, you know, these other guys you see, the social media moguls of the sales that are always like, you know, pushing hard.
Yep.
Almost to like they're cornering people into a position where they,
Yep.
all right, just do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we don't really go that route.
Yeah.
We just want, you know, a smooth interaction with the customer.
Yep.
Making them feel like they're getting more value than what they're going to be paying for.
Yeah.
And that we fulfill our end of the duty.
Yeah.
You know, because once we obtain that customer, the goal is we don't want to pay for that customer ever again.
No.
Right? Cost of acquisition for a customer in our market is astronomical.
Yeah.
It costs a ton to get people.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we can get in there, do a good job, and then retain that customer.
Yeah.
Customer retention is huge.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Do you have a membership?
that's any business. Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started with just one membership, and it wasn't really selling too much. It was you know, maybe a little bit too detailed.
Yeah.
Long warranty, $20 a month, you know, some other stuff. And then we just kind of simplified it, especially since we have AC now. We're going to get you one cost up front. You're going to get 10% discount. We'll service the AC. You'll get a plumbing inspection, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it sells.
Yep.
It sells.
Yep.
And most of the time on big install jobs, we'll just include it. You know,
Yep.
it helps to sell the job. Hey, you're going to get this membership. We're going to take care of your AC for a year. You know,
Yep.
We're going to be good to go.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, man. People feel like they're in a membership. You know, they feel like they're getting the priority service and all that, which they are. As long as you don't mess it up,
Yeah.
they're going to be there for you.
Yeah.
You know what I
When
mean?
did you start that membership?
The one with the AC, we just started probably
Yeah.
about 2 months ago.
That'll be a big one for return customers. With Prospector, we started with it's $49 a month. You get a free tune-up every year, and 10% off all services. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then, and that was just our cost to go do the tune-up. It's basically cost us like $5.99 to go do a tune-up. And you could have people you could get people to go in there and do a tune-up for $200 or $300. They wouldn't do a good job. And it was still more than $49. So we sold the crap out of those.
Wow.
But and then, you know, year 2, it was like we doubled our business the next year because we had all our customers from year 1 came back to us year 2. And then year 2 we sold everybody we went to, we sold a membership to, and then year 3 you almost double your business again just from memberships, just from, you know, and with the same marketing budget, because I bought all those customers this year, and next year they return. And so the money that I spend on marketing buys all new customers. And then I have all those customers and they return. And then the next year I get to buy all new customers with the exact same marketing budget. My budget for prospector marketing, it was like $380,000 a year. And I pretty much spent that year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4, the same amount. But we grew from nothing to...
In year 1, you spent that?
I spent a lot of money. Yep.
Wow. How much was that of your total revenue? Percentage?
It was probably... So the first 6 months I was in business, I don't remember how much I spent, but the year, like the first full year in business, we did 2.8 million, spent 340-ish, 380-ish on marketing, somewhere in there. So it was a high percentage.
Yeah, but you know, the end result is you got what you needed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm doing the same thing here today. We are spending right now on Dude Wash more than I ever spent for prospector. We're spending like $440,000 a year on marketing because I don't want to wait. Right?
Yeah.
I got the money. I don't want to wait. So
yeah, the grassroots thing isn't going to work now.
Yeah, I think
I'm with you.
I think the idea of like marketing budget being a % of your revenue, I think is silly. Like it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
If you can spend it and you want to grow that fast, why not? I think what matters most is you're like knowing what it costs you to acquire a customer and then saying, okay, how much revenue do I want to do this year? That means I need to acquire this many customers at my average ticket to produce that revenue. That means my marketing budget needs to be this.
Yeah.
That's a more important way to think about your marketing rather than saying, because I know there's a bunch of guys out there that say, oh, you got to keep your marketing budget below, 10% at the beginning, 5% at scale. And to me, that's silly.
Everybody will tell you something different than marketing, right? I think, I mean, we spend probably between 15, 18% on marketing.
Yeah.
But we need to.
Yeah.
Otherwise our phones don't ring. We're just at the point now in our business where, we're getting those repeat customers coming back.
Yep.
Right. But so just like you, that marketing, we're going to keep the same and hope for the same growth moving forward with, more retention and, more customers calling again and again.
Yeah. And if you keep the spend the same, the percentage will go down as you grow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't teach you any of this stuff, right?
No. Nope. No, they don't.
It's actually fun though, learning this stuff and trying things. And we actually just got signed up with your brother.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Cool.
He's going to be doing our Google and our pay-per-click.
Cool. Right on.
Yeah.
That's
He'll
good.
probably end up getting us for everything in a bit, but
yeah,
we're going to give it a shot.
What are you doing for advertising across the board, just out of curiosity?
We do, we put out things in like mailers, right? But we do them on every job. So we'll hit all the neighbors.
Gotcha.
PPC, right? That's probably the most of it. We've really lacked in building our brand, so that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on now.
Yeah.
Getting the brand identifiable, all over.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing the Facebook stuff, Instagram stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm hoping that it's going to work good.
It'll work good.
Yeah.
If you do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what your brother's for.
Yeah.
He's the pro.
I always run my own Facebook ads because.
Oh, you do?
Yep. Just because I have the ability to.
Yeah. You know about it now.
Yeah.
I honestly don't even have the time. I don't even have the time.
Yeah. The trick is keeping even when you hire a marketing company, you need to understand it and you need to guide them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I would be thinking like, how do I become famous in a small area? And then really hit that small area, like really hard with all your marketing.
Yeah.
And have you ever done like a market analysis or anything of certain zip codes?
We've done some competitor analysis, which my marketing company has done just to kind of show me like, how much they're paying or how much their call volume is and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But not really.
Yeah.
And, you said, target one area.
Yeah.
When I first started, I was like, man, I'm going to go all over the place.
Everywhere.
And you'll find out real quick that pay-per-click.
Yep. Yep.
You'll be looking at, wait, this budget's only supposed to be $40 a day. And you see your bill at the end of the month and it is not in line with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very important to, especially with pay-per-click, condense it into a small area and just focus on that one area.
Yep. I would condense everything down. So what I would do is I'd say, okay, in 2 years, I want to be at this size shop, which means I need this many customers, which means, and then I would go find that area that has, then you do a market analysis that says I can pull this much money out of there, and it aligns with your revenue goals. And then you go spend accordingly for that area. That's what I would do. Be a little more systematic about it. Because I've just blasted marketing out, and then I'm like, wait, okay, we got to narrow this down. like if you spend $200,000 a year across 100 zip codes, each zip code gets $2,000 worth of marketing.
Yeah,
it doesn't do anything.
Not enough to move the needle.
If you spend $200,000 in one zip code, they're seeing you everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to know you whether they want to or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Whether they like you or not.
They're going to see you.
Yeah, they're going to see you.
And that's the important thing, right?
Yeah.
See you before they need you, right?
Yep. I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of, we're learning a lot of tough lessons as we go.
That's the name of the game.
But that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Well, it was a good one. Thank you. It was. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. Anybody wants to come to Florida, relocate, let's have a discussion. We need good people for sure.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're looking for plumbers?
We're looking for plumbers.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going HVAC guys. They're all over, but plumbers we need.
Oh, really? HVAC guys are easy to get?
Well, you put out a job posting, and just the volume of AC technicians to plumbers is it's 3-4 times. So there's plenty to pick from.
Interesting.
But not for plumbers. Yeah.
I need to start a plumbing business here. Is what I need to do.
Yeah, man. I don't know. You learn all this stuff as you go. It might not be ideal to start a plumbing business in Florida.
I don't know why I love the plumbing business.
Yeah.
I love it.
Everybody
wants HVAC, and it's cool. I love the plumbing.
Yeah. We almost did it backwards here. Everybody has HVAC down here. Air conditioning, heating.
Yeah.
Usually they'll piggyback and start plumbing after that.
Right.
Where we're doing it kind of backwards.
I think it's cool.
We established the plumbing, and now we're doing the AC.
I think it's cool because plumbing, you can get high ticket upsells like repipes, drain replacements.
Yeah.
And
we do well pumps too, so that's a big one that plumbers don't do down here.
Water filtration.
Yeah.
All that good stuff. And it's year round.
It is. Yeah.
You can do those year round. Your AC stuff gets seasonal. It gets to be kind of a pain.
That's funny. I feel like plumbing is seasonal too, though.
It is.
It is down here. I mean, I see it in my revenue from last year to this year.
Mm-hmm.
We're at a steady increase, but it's still a wave.
Yep.
We still get slow after Christmas.
Yep.
We still pick up after the holidays. We still get slow around spring break.
Yep.
Then we get slow in the summer.
And that's always going to happen.
Yeah.
It'll get better the longer you're in business because you'll just have more customers to lean on during those times.
Right.
And then you'll get a better idea of when those times are. And then you'll get a better idea of how to plan out your capacity for that.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm going to be slow in a week, so let's spend more on marketing now. And then some of those jobs will filter into that week.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff gets a lot easier over time, especially when you can go look at the data and you have the data to know. That's when
the data's key
gets so much easier. So you'll be there with Service Titan. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, brother. Thanks.